So let's talk about earthquake insurance. Do you folks recommend earthquake insurance?
So earthquake insurance is, I put it like this. It's depending on your risk tolerance, how comfortable you are taking on the risk of possibly losing everything if the worst happens. Earthquake insurance, is a way to give you some financial resiliency. So you want to protect your property, protect your family, have a safety net to fall on if an earthquake happens. Earthquake insurance can be expensive, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. So it's just a matter of weighing the cost of that premium, the cost of the deductible versus your comfort level with how you'll be able to get back on your feet if you lose everything.
And you were telling me that there's a small percentage of people that actually have earthquake insurance.
Correct. In Oregon, there's only about 15% of homeowners that actually have the earthquake endorsement on their insurance policies.
Do you think it should be higher?
That is a surprising number. That number runs very similar with Washington and California as well, but it wouldn't hurt if it was higher. No.
Yeah. Do you know what regs there are? Like if you're going to if you want earthquake insurance, do you need to have your house retrofitted?
Some insurance companies are going to have different standards, and it's all going to depend on how old your house is and what type of construction you have. So there may be some type of retrofit requirements because it could also be based on where it's located. Are you, depending on the type of soil, are you on a hill? How does the foundation set? So there's a lot of factors that go into it, and there may be a requirement. I know some insurance companies will say, because of the age of the home, it needs to be retrofitted before we can insure it.
And do I understand correctly, if there's an earthquake and your house is ruined, and you have earthquake insurance, that insurance money has to go to pay off the outstanding mortgage first, and then you would have what's left over?
That is a possibility. It depends on the situation, on the ability to rebuild, and a lot of other factors. But if you have a mortgage, your mortgage company will be included on the check. Now, the mortgage company may have depending on their processes, procedures, their contracts, may have a right to say, okay, we're going to pay off this loan and then give you the rest to rebuild. A lot of times mortgage companies in disaster situations will say, okay, we'll sign off on the check, but we need to see the estimate, we need to see the signed contract, and we need to see that work is starting before we just hand the money over. They want to see that work on their investment is actually going to get done.
So they might not necessarily take the money to pay off the mortgage?
Might not, no. They may they may set up an account for you to pull from it so that you can do your rebuild. There's a lot of different things that mortgage companies will do before they just say, okay, we're going to pay off your loan, and then it's up to you to figure it out.
So in that scenario, you would get the money to rebuild, and then you would continue your mortgage with them, I would imagine.
Right.
Gotcha. Do you have a take, and if you don't, I'm not going to put you on the spot, on his contention that there's kind of a Wild West aspect of these retrofit situations and how they would relate to insurance?
Right. It's difficult because it is different based on city and county municipalities and who's going to require what. Our standpoint is we're going to recommend that you work with a licensed engineer if you're going to have a retrofit done, so that you can ensure that it's up to current engineering standards, that you're getting the proper retrofit for the size of the seismic event that you want to prevent, and that the right materials are used based on where your home is located, the type of construction that it is, the type of the type of land that it's on, so that you're covering all those bases by working with a licensed engineer. Could it be an extra expense versus just going with a contractor? Yes, but it's also, if you're going to do it, make sure it's done correctly, especially if you're going to spend the money to do it, and go with a licensed engineer that's going to help you confirm that, yes, this was done up to the standards it needs to be done to.
But that's a recommendation, not a requirement.
That's a recommendation, correct.
So I'm trying to think else. What else I can ask you? Do you have a take on his assertion, or he's very suspect that if earthquake happens, that these insurance companies are going to go bankrupt and you're going to be left high and dry?
Right. So if an earthquake happens, there's your insurance companies have, they understand what their exposure is, how much money it's going to cost them if the worst happens, and so they have to have contingencies in place to cover that. So they're prepared for it. What would be difficult is if you have something like Cascadia, the 9.0 Cascadia that we hear about, that we're all a little worried about, is just the sheer damage to infrastructure and everything around us. The rebuilding process is not going to be quick. The demand for contractors and builders and others to come in and set everything back up is going to be difficult, because if you're a homeowner, you're going to be way down the list from roads, hospitals, other institutions that need to get up and running for the livelihood of all of us, right?
And any contractor you might want to hire might be in trouble themselves.
Yes, yeah, and they've got to kind of get themselves out of it. So there's, so you have that to deal with. The good thing with earthquake insurance is if you have earthquake insurance, you have additional living expenses that will help cover you during that time when there is no access. So when you're weighing your risk on, is it worth paying for it for the chance it might happen, the other thing to consider is, okay, what if I do lose everything, and what if it takes me multiple years to rebuild? If it takes me 1 or 2 years to actually start rebuilding, am I comfortable without having any sort of coverage during that time, or do I want to pay this premium so that I have an insurance company that will help me find lodging, that will help cover some of my food expenses, that will help make sure that I'm covering my basic needs, the clothes that I lost in the earthquake, things like that, so that my family is taken care of and I have a safety net to fall back on while I try to figure out what the heck am I going to do with getting my house and my property back up.
Chaos.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.